Hello everyone. So in today's class, we are going to learn about environmental issues. So this chapter is not only about learning, this is also about the issues which are occurring in our lives also because the environment is getting affected. So if the environment is getting affected, that means our daily lives, our daily issues are also increasing. So in today's class, we are going to learn about the different types of issues that environment is facing and how these issues are concerned. So let's talk about the degradation. So as we know that environment is degraded. So if the environment is degraded, what are the reasons of degradation? Why it is degraded? So in today's class, we are going to solve such type of questions. And if we talk about from the exam point of view, there are some fact-based questions and some direct questions which occurs from this chapter. So we'll talk one by one about it. So first, if we look at this image, so in the left hand side, you see there's a blurred image, right? And on the left hand side, you see that's a clear image. So on the left hand side, you see that this blurred image is of before lockdown. And this image, which is very much clear, is during the lockdown. So why in the first image everything is looking so blurred? So here we see our India Gate is looking blurred on the left hand side and looking clear on the right hand side. So because of the major pollutants which are there, which is making this picture blur. So if we talk about the smoke and if we talk about the fog which is making up the smog, that is actually causing this picture blurry. So this is all about the smoke and the fog which is making the smoke, and these are the pollution. Because of the pollution it is happening. So this smoke causes lot of respiratory diseases. So these respiratory diseases are very harmful and can sometimes lead to death also. Right? So when we talk about during the lockdown, so if you see there is the clear image, there is no blurred image, right? So there is no smoke which is coming up, which is actually not coming from the factories, from the vehicles, from all the waste materials which is being burned, right? That means there is no smoke and there is no smog also, because of which there's less number of respiratory disease which are being caused during the lockdown. But is it the possible reason that only during the lockdown there will be no respiratory diseases, there will be no smog? Is this the solution? So we have to think of the solutions. First we have to think of the causes, issues which are occurring in our daily life and in the environment and why it is happening. So we are going to learn this one by one in our chapter. So if you look at this beautiful image, this is Ganga River. So in the news it has been shown that this Ganga River is actually cleaned by itself, and during the last lockdown days it has been purely clean and there's less pollution. But why there is less pollution? And it is also mentioned that the water quality is improved. But why during the lockdown only, not earlier? Because there are some chemical waste, there are industrial waste, there were factories, so factory waste. These all the waste are dumped into the river. But during this lockdown, as there is no movement, there is no work, so these wastes have been reduced. So because of which the water quality has been increased, right? So when we are talking about these issues, it is not only about the air, it is also about water, it is also about soil, it is also about other natural resources. So let's see one more issue. So if you look at this, there are harmful UV rays which are coming to the earth. So these harmful UV rays are protected by something. So what is that? That is the layer. So which layer is protecting us from the harmful UV rays? That is ozone layer. So this ozone layer is actually helping everyone. It is actually helping in environmental issues, and this is protecting us from the harmful UV rays. But so as we have heard that there is a ozone hole in Antarctica. And nowadays, because of the lockdown, there's a news that this ozone hole is healing and it is completely getting filled up, and there the hole size is now smaller as compared to earlier. That is only because there is no pollution, right? There are no chemical waste, there are no factory waste, there are less pollutants. Right? So when we're talking about these things, we should first know the issues of the environment, then we should know what are the causes of it and how to solve the issues. So there was a question in our exam in NEET 2013 that in which zone the ozone layer is present. So as we know, atmosphere has different layers. So the layers the closest to the atmosphere is troposphere. After the troposphere, we have stratosphere. After the stratosphere is mesosphere. Then thermosphere. And far from the layers of troposphere or the atmosphere, we have exosphere. So in which layer ozone layer is present? So it is present in case of stratosphere layer. So the answer to the question is stratosphere, right? So we have talked about these major issues in our life, right? So these are the issues in your life, these are the issues in my life, and these are the issues of the environment, right? So we have talked about the pollution. But what is pollution? Pollution is defined as unwanted or undesirable change. Undesirable means something excess, or that excess or that something is related to air, land, water, or soil. So if we talk about the pollution, pollution is defined as unwanted or undesirable change in physical, chemical, or biological characteristics of air, land, water, soil. So if we talk about air, land, water, soil, so these all are the natural resources. So when we talk about the air, so in case of air, like there is a prevention act, right? So government is also helping in controlling all of the pollution, and because of which it is giving the laws. So government has given one air prevention control of pollution act. So there comes a question. So when it was amended, it was given in 1981 but amended in 1987. So you should remember this government is helping in control of the air pollution. In 1987 it was amended, right? So when we're talking about the air, it can be excess of CO2 in the atmosphere that is caused by the vehicles, by the combustion of fossil fuels or burning. When we're talking about the land, so it can be that landfill are present with some pollutants. When we're talking about the water, so it can be contamination of water. And when we're talking about the soil, so there are some compounds which are very, very harmful, which are degrading the soil quality. So these are the undesirable changes that are occurring in air, land, water or soil, which is leading to production of harmful conditions in the environment. So this is known as pollution. But who is causing the pollution? These are known as pollutants. So pollutants are the agents that bring about such an undesirable change. So all the undesirable change in air, land, water, soil, these are caused by the agents known as pollutants. So let's classify pollution into different types. So when we're talking about the types of pollution, first is air pollution. Like we have talked about, there's a prevention act also, and the air quality is decreased because of the presence of carbon dioxide. Then we have the water pollution, like we have talked about the case of Ganga river, right? So all the waste material is being there in the Ganga river. Then we have the soil pollution, like some substances which are harmful are degrading the quality of the soil. Then we have the noise pollution. So we know that there is an audible range. So audible range is 20 Hertz to 20,000 Hertz. Right? So noise pollution is caused when the range or the frequency of the sound is more than 20,000 Hertz, right? So that leads to the noise pollution. Then we have the thermal pollution, and at last we have the radioactive pollution, which is caused by the release of the radioactive substances. So all these types of pollutions we are going to learn in our later chapters. So this is the classification of pollution, but what about pollutants? So when we are classifying pollutants, it is based on the forms in which they are released. So it can be classified into primary pollutants and secondary pollutants. Based on the degradation, it can be classified into biodegradable pollutants and non-biodegradable pollutants. Based on the existence in nature, it can be classified into quantitative pollutants and qualitative pollutants. So these all pollutants are harmful, right? So let's talk about them one by one. First we have the primary pollutant. So when we're talking about the primary pollutant, it is based on the form. In which they are released. So when we're talking about the primary pollutants, substances that are emitted directly from the identifiable source, such as sulfur dioxide. That means we are able to identify the source of pollution, right? So when we are able to identify the source of pollution and we are able to know that from this source these substances are emitted, that becomes a primary pollutant. So how is sulfur dioxide a primary pollutant? So when we are talking about the sulfur dioxide, there is a burning of coal, which is the identifiable source, right? Which is releasing sulfur dioxide. So there are vehicular exhaust also, which are releasing the oxides of nitrogen. That means we are able to identify the sources, burning of coal or the vehicular exhaust. So this is known as primary pollutant. And how it is differentiated from the secondary pollutant? So substances derived from the primary pollutant. So you have got sulfur dioxide, you have got oxides of nitrogen from the primary pollutant. by chemical reaction with them. So we are not able to identify the source. So when we are not able to identify the source and the primary pollutants are reacting with these substances, that becomes the secondary pollutant. So if we talk about peroxyacyl nitrate, which is PAN, so this is the secondary pollutant. So these secondary pollutants, like this is released from photochemical smoke, right? So for example, this primary pollutant SO2, it reacts with the chemical reaction occurs with the water. It gives out the acids. So these acids become the secondary pollutants. So this is how we classify primary pollutants and secondary pollutants. Let's talk about the second type, that is biodegradable pollutant and non-biodegradable pollutant. So on the basis of the degradation, it is classified into biodegradable pollutant and non-biodegradable pollutant. So substances that are decomposed by the microorganisms or microbes. That means we are able to, or the microorganisms are able to decompose the substances like the kitchen waste, right? So kitchen waste that is coming, that is the organic matter. So for example, if you're keeping the food for 24 hours left somewhere outside, so it will be degraded or decomposed by the microorganism, so we can call it as the biodegradable pollutant. Next we have the non-biodegradable pollutant. That means substances that cannot be decomposed by the microorganisms, like plastic. So plastic, if you keep it as such for 24 hours, it will be remain as such. That means microorganisms are not able to decompose the plastic, and that is why in some states plastic is banned, because it is very harmful and it is not decomposed by the microorganisms. So this is about the, based on the degradation, it is classified into biodegradable pollutant and non-biodegradable pollutant. Let's talk about the third classification. So next we have the quantitative pollutant and qualitative pollutant. So based on the nature, it is classified into qualitative pollutant and quantitative pollutant. So when we're talking about the quantitative, quantity is the amount, right? So substances that are already present in nature and we are also adding it. That means human activity is adding up that substance more in the nature in large amount. That means the quantity is more. That becomes the quantitative pollutant. So for example, carbon dioxide is already present in the atmosphere, right? And with the help of the human activities like burning of coal, burning of fossil fuels, from the vehicles, more carbon dioxide is released. So the carbon dioxide which is already present in atmosphere gets added up with the carbon dioxide by the human activities and it is added up in large amount. That becomes the quantitative pollutants. So when we are talking about the qualitative pollutants, that means about the quality of that substance. So substances that are not present in nature, that means it is not present in nature like the CO2, right? But it is added up by the man. So there are human activities which are actually making those pollutants and they're adding up in the nature, like herbicides and pesticides. So sides means killing. Herbicides is used for killing the herbs. These chemicals are used for killing the herbs, and pesticides are used for killing the pest. So for example, we are spraying on the fruits and vegetables pesticides, right? And even if we wash it, or even like we have it or animal has it, is it that those pesticides are not taken up by us? No. That means the pesticides are also added up. That means the concentration of pesticides increases. So because of which there is imbalance in the trophic level. So if there is an imbalance in trophic level, or we can say the food chain, the whole food chain will get destroyed or will get imbalanced. So that means these qualitative pollutants, they are not present in nature, but by the human activities we are adding up in nature. So this is how we classify on the basis of nature qualitative pollutant and quantitative pollutants. So this is about the types of pollution and the types of pollution or pollutants. I hope you understood. Thank you.